Om Sarvopurishad Gavo Dogda Gopalanandana Parthavatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Maha. This, as we have agreed, will be the opening chant. All the Upanishads, the cows, the milker is Krishna, the cowherd boy. Partha, Arjuna is a calf. And the men of purified intellect are the drinkers of that milk. And the milk itself is the supreme nectar called the Bhagavad Gita. We will commence from where we left off last time, the second chapter, and the verse is the sixth verse. I'll chant the verse in Sanskrit and then, as we know, we can translate it. Na chaitad vidma kataranno gariyo yadva jayema yadivano jayeyu yane vahatva na jijivishama steva stita pramuke dhartarashtraha. The translation, the simple translation is, whether we should conquer them or they should conquer us, we do not know which would be better. These very sons of Dhritarashtra stand arrayed before us, after slaying whom we should not care to live. The translation is not a very, very happy one. However, visualize the two contending armies. And it is said that the enemies outnumbered these righteous brothers' armies. There is something called Akshoni. It's a kind of a huge division of the army. And the numbers are, there are about 22,000 chariots and elephants. There are 65,500 horses, 109,350 soldiers. This was one huge division of the army, and the enemy had 11 such, and the brothers' armies had 7 such. So there was a kind of, we knew ultimately it's the numbers that count. They had the numbers. When we see these contending armies ready for battle, there are 3 levels the battle starts. You can say the immediate, that's the kind of hand-to-hand fighting, that comes towards the very end. The first that comes is long-range missiles. You start shooting long range. And then you have the medium range. You can say even missiles, or you can say arrows or whatever. And then when these two are exhausted, then comes the actual hand-to-hand. And the hand-to-hand fighting is terrible because here you have even the horses involved, chariots of course, and the elephants. And these elephants were trained during warfare to trample. anything that comes in the way. So Arjuna says, we do not know. It's very strange. All this while he was talking about himself. I'm frightened, I don't want to fight. And now he's switching on. We. And it shows, okay, I'm frightened, and so are the rest of us. But, the Lord is there. He understands. This person is now trying to throw the blame on everyone else. It's not only I'm responsible for this, but everyone else is in this picture. So that's why when he says that whether we should conquer them or they should conquer us, that's not a question. He was frightened, so he bought in. It's like somebody says, you're guilty of something. Me? Everybody does it. So I try to buffer that, you can say, guilt by everybody does it. So Arjuna has taken the first, you can say, wrong step when he's talking to the Lord. So he is frightened. And obviously he is frightened. But there are two things that actually happened. One, even before the war preparations could commence, Sri Krishna goes, agreed on both sides as an ambassador, and tries to talk them out of war. These Kauravas, they were, as I say, they're okay, fine. The Pandavas, the opposing armies, they are saying no. Saying give them half the kingdom which they have the right to. And they will build a new capital. No. And you can say the dialogue keeps on going on, the discussion keeps on going. Okay, give them 5 villages and they will be okay. I think they should be okay. No, not even 5. Okay, give them 1 village. They can live quite peacefully. No. Now this is where the dialogue broke down. And Sri Krishna returns and says, they are not willing to let go even the part of a land which can hold, they say, a needle, Suchimukha. Even needle, how big is a needle? Even that much they are not willing to let go. So commenced the war. Just before the armies were getting arrayed on the battlefield, they have these formations, various formations. Someone takes a formation of an eagle, and the opposing armies will see how they can counter it. Maybe with the arrow, or maybe a shield or something like that. Or kind of a pincer movement. So Yudhishthira, the eldest of the 5 brothers, he was a very godly king. And he was respected by all. So he places his weapons on his chariot and he goes towards the commanders of the opposing armies. Bhishma, Drona and Shalya. These are the 3 main, you can say, commanders and very elite warriors. So he goes and says, and everybody is wondering what's going to happen now. This guy has come here. Last moment, you can say, compromises. He goes to them and says, do not lift your weapon up. You come to my side otherwise. You either stay neutral or come over to my side. They knew, all the 3 elders, they knew that Yudhishthira was right, but they were bound. As you say, they were obliged to fight with the enemy. Why is that? Because they say that, all of them, that You see, we are, for so many years, He has been taking care of us. We are beholden to Him. So many years, He has given us wealth and status and the other things. And that's the reason why we cannot afford to become traitors at the very end. Their argument was perfectly okay. But if you see the large picture, they were wrong. The small picture, yes, the argument was perfectly okay. Why should anybody be a traitor for one who has been supporting you and helping you? And Yudhishthira returns. And he is also, and his very name is saying, one who is steady during the war. Yuddha is a war. Sthira is steady. One who is steady. And everyone were looking up to him. For courage and you can say comfort. But this person was really a great warrior. So the compromise was off. There's going to be a war. And Arjuna now, he's saying, we do not know whether we should conquer them or they should conquer us. They had a numbers. These people never had a numbers. But they had a great satisfaction of having Sri Krishna on their side, which is very important. And he's saying these very children of Dhritarashtra, they are arrayed in front of us. And we ought to kill them. But what will be the use of killing them? We don't like to kill them. And here they are, they want to kill us. Simple as slayers. And why do we then care to live even after conquering them? What's the point in living? Because this was a civil war. You understand? You have something, even the American Civil War, you had families torn. One part of the family of brothers fighting the south and in the north. How do you reconcile these things? But the duty and the burden of warfare is, you've got to see them as enemies and fight. There are no brothers. Yes, they are brothers, but when war comes, the system of duty changes. So he says, we do not know whether you should conquer them. We, like I said, he is taking the plural, which is now kind of, you can say, trying to safeguard his point of view, that this is the view of all of us, which it wasn't, because the other brothers were all out to now destroy the opposing forces. Dhritarashtra is the blind king. And it's significant because he's blinded by his attachment to his son, to his kingdom, to everything. He should have been, you can say, liberal in saying, yes, these are also my children. And these too are my children. Okay, you have an amicable settlement. No, he was blinded by the attachment to the... And similarly, you find that his blindness had translated itself to his sons and grandsons and everyone. They were saying nothing doing. There is no letting go anything. So the next sloka is number 7. Karpanya dosho pahat swabhava Prichami tvam dharma sammudha cheta yat shreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me Shishasteham sadimam tvam prapannam. This is a very famous verse where he says, by nature is weighed down with the taint of feeble-mindedness. My understanding is confused as to duty. I entreat you, say definitely what is good for me. I am your disciple. Do instruct me who has taken refuge in thee. Now, there are a couple of things here that are important. He says, my nature is the correct word is clouded by a kind of a feebleness. The translation, yes, it could be feebleness, but then Karpanya, the word is Karpanya. It's an abstract form of Kripana. This word first appears in the Upanishads, where the great sage Yajnavalkya, he is having a dialogue with that another great sage called Gargi. She was one of the great knowers of Brahman. So it was taking place in the court of the king Janaka. So towards the end, she is inquiring about his proficiency in the absolute knowledge. And she speaks about the imperishable Brahman. And he keeps on explaining to her. Towards the end, when her questions are too piercing, don't ask too many questions, Gargi, your head will fall off. You are asking about something, about a reality, which should not be inquired like this. So she first, in the first section, she stops, and then again later, she makes a declaration in the assembly that if you can answer these two questions of mine, none of you can beat him. You see, all were all knowers of Brahman. And she again comes with these two questions. And one of the questions was, once again, this imperishable Brahman. And he answers indirectly. And in the process of the dialogue, he says, one who does not realize this imperishable and passes away is a kripana, is a miser. The literal meaning is miserly, miser. So here we have this miserly. In time, a host of meanings were attached to this. One who thinks small, one who is selfish, one who is greedy, one who hides things from others. So all these terms are all relevant here. Arjuna is using that same word, the abstract form of that karpanya dosha, the fault of being miserly or feeble-minded or selfish. These are the words. So, and what has actually overpowered this feeling has overpowered what? His nature. What is his nature? You see, what happens is, suppose you're talking to a doctor, and then she says, how are you, doctor? I'm fine. And doctor will say, how are you? And she'll say, I'm fine. The moment you say, doctor, you see, I've got a pain here. It's aching. Then all that knowledge of the doctor will surface up. And he or she will start talking to you as a doctor. In philosophy, in psychology, Indian psychology, this is called nature, the Swabhav. It has been created by you. You have worked on it. It is not nature. It is you who have created this. And it's not only doctors, but any person trained in any particular field. That person has diligently worked up some level of proficiency as a teacher, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a nurse, or anything, as a technician or an engineer, anything. So that knowledge is just beneath the surface, it comes up. Arjuna was trained as a warrior from the very beginning. And since he was trained such, that was his nature. So the nature is Swabhava. The Swa is one's own, you can say, being. That which actually you have worked for it becomes a part of your being. It is you. You are identified with that knowledge. So here we have Arjuna, his nature, which he has trained for so long as a superior warrior, is being overshadowed by a sense of helplessness, miserliness, selfishness, fear and feeble-mindedness. This is what he says. And the next is, my understanding is confused as to duty. It shouldn't have been. It should have been crystal clear that my duty is to protect people. At times, to protect people, protect society, you have to take a step where you need to even kill the enemy. If the enemy surrenders, that's a different thing. You have the Geneva Convention that says, okay. But as long as the enemy is armed, he is ready to kill you. When he says, my understanding is confused as duty, now he is not true to himself. He is not true to his training. He is not true to his vocation, his calling. All his life that he has molded his identity on suddenly vanishes. It shouldn't have. Because that's the test of your identity. Under severe stress, you will be a doctor, you will be a lawyer, or you will be a professor, you will be. The circumstances will not shake you. And this is what happens. Secondly, these very words in the philosophical language is called the fault of repeating your arguments. It's called punarukti dosha. Ukti is speaking dosha, the fault of repeating yourself. When you are discussing philosophy, you say that thing one time. You make your point clear. You don't need to repeat it. And if you repeat it one time or even two times, it means you are out of all arguments. You have no more arguments. You are saying the same thing which you've been saying. And that's what he has been saying in the first chapter over and over again. I'll read a little of this. In the first chapter, he says, what can we hope from this killing of kinsmen? What do I want with victory, empire, or the enjoyment? Oh Govinda, how can I care for power or pleasure? My own life even, when all these other teachers, fathers, grandfathers, uncles, sons, brothers, husbands of sisters, grandsons and cousins, for whose sake only I should enjoy them, stand here ready to risk blood and wealth in war against us? So, this argument that he had given in 6 or 7 verses in the first chapter, he is repeating himself. Now you must visualize both of them standing in a chariot, ready for battle. But Arjuna has sunk to the ground in the sense, on the floor of the chariot. His bow, his one of the greatest he was the greatest, we can say, archers. His bow had slipped off his hand. His head is whirling. He's feeling feverish. And he sees all ill omens all around. And Sri Krishna, holding the reins of the horses very lightly, he's looking at him, and this guy is babbling. And then he looks up at Sri Krishna. And then, all this time, till the war could commence, he considered Sri Krishna as his friend. Sakha, his friend. And they were more or less equal in prowess. He knew, however, that this friend of mine is exceptional. He is an exceptional warrior, he is a commander, administrator, he is a king. He is not a king, he is a kingmaker. And over and above that, he has spiritual qualities. They lived together, they ate together, they played together, they strolled together. Now, after seeing the Lord's face, he says, I am your disciple. He says, I am your disciple. Do instruct me, who has taken refuge in you. Here it is. So, when you come to the point of no return, you see no other options. And here you have a friend who's more than a friend now. He says, I am your disciple. Please instruct me and tell me definitively what is good for me. What is good for me? 2 choices come to us at every moment in every circumstance. One is called prayas and shreyas. The good and the highest good. We need to select which one we take. It depends on our choices. The good in the sense of, you have comfort, you have power, position, prestige. You have everything. And you have also the choice of taking another road which will lead you to the highest goal, and that is liberation, moksha. So, in one of the Upanishads, the Lord of Death, Yama, tells the boy, Nachiketas, Shreyasa prayasa manushameta dau samparityo vivinakti dhira. Both these things come, both choices come before every person. The discerning person takes the choice of the highest good. And those undiscerning, he uses the word fools. They are short-sighted. They will go for short-term goals. There is an instant gratification. Instead of stopping yourself from instant gratification, I want a long-term gratification there. So we take this. Most of our lives we are, you can say, burdened with this, whether this choice is right or wrong. And if you have taken the right choice, it leads to good. Many times we take the wrong choice, and most of our troubles begin there. Here, Arjuna says, You tell me which is the greatest good. Here. So, he's now asking for advice on why. And Sri Krishna has been telling him, get up, rouse yourself up, fight. What's this? He asks him, and now I am your disciple. Now, discipleship entails certain conditions, in the sense of you need to approach your teacher with humility, with a desire to serve, with a desire to learn and to carry it out into practice. And being a disciple is not an easy thing. In today's world, I'm a disciple and I'm a disciple. Who is my teacher? Oh no. The teacher's job is extremely simple. He'll tell you what is right and what is wrong and do this and do that. But the disciple's burden is even heavier. Oh yes, he gets the advice, of course, but his burden is heavier. So in the old days, students or disciples used to approach the teacher with faggots in their hands, dry sticks. A kind of symbolic way that I am here to serve you by serving that sacrificial fires. And even later on we will find that learn from the enlightened ones by prostrations, by asking questions, and by service to them. Yes, you need to ask questions, but before you can do, they want to see whether you are humble enough to acquire that knowledge. There is a kind of a small hilarious, it's a joke. One disciple, he goes to his guru to learn the drums. So he goes and the guru says, $50, I'll teach you. Oh, it's very pleased. His friend also goes, saying $50 is quite cheap. He goes and says, you see, Guru, I know a little. So, could I get a discount? So, no, you pay $100. What? He doesn't know anything. He says $50. I should have got a discount. No, the first $50 will go in trying to erase what you have already learned, all the wrong thing. And the next $50 will go to teach you. So many times we come to the Guru with many preconceived notions about spirituality, about a Guru, about a disciple, about the final goal. The Guru somehow has to first eradicate those old notions. And that's a time when some of those cherished notions are hit, and there, you feel, uncomfortable. And at times, the disciples say, enough of this. I don't want to have my illusions broken. I want to run away. Here it is, I am your disciple. Yes. He knows the teacher, and the teacher knows him. All through they have been together, so they each know each other's life. But the proper form hasn't yet come. Yes, I am your disciple. Tell me definitively what is good for me. This or this. Now it should have been clear. His choice was two. One was fight as a warrior or die. And in the scriptures it is said, a yogi who attains illumination and passes away, he reaches the highest heaven. As well as a soldier who dies defending his country and his people. If he is killed on the battlefield, he too will attain the same goal as a yogi. So it was clear he should have fought. he tried to excuse himself, saying that this war and this is a terrible business. Let's go and do some, begging. We'll beg for alms. And in India, this was common. You go and beg for alms and people will give you the alms. But they will see you. Like one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna wanted to train his disciples. And some of his disciples were really hefty looking. So one disciple, Swami Satyamayananda, he goes out to beg. And various reactions are there. One old lady comes in, "Aren't you ashamed to beg? Look at you, a big stout fellow, and you want to beg? Why don't you go and get yourself a job as a kind of a bus conductor?" She does give him, because it is considered very auspicious, and you earn a lot of merit. And each one had various, you can say, experiences, and they come and they tell each other and they entertain each other, and then they offer the food first to the Lord. They give to Sri Ramakrishna and saying, "Oh, this food is very pure." He takes the food. But begging was, you can say, permitted, but only for those who were monks, who were brahmacharis, who had taken up the novices, and those who were, as we know, Brahmins. They were considered very poor. They were the original beggars of India. But the begging was a kind of a spiritual, you can say. They were left without any kind of material wealth, anything. They were like godlike people. Society gave them all the privileges, but they kept them without any money. You couldn't even cook for yourself. You go out and beg. Simple as that. So he is going to, Arjuna is saying, I will take up the duty of those people. You are not supposed to take up the duty of the Brahmins and the monks and the brahmacharis and novices. You cannot. You are a warrior. You got to stand and fight. You are supposed to protect these guys. You are going to take. So his question is, in this, you can say, my nature has been overpowered by this kind of fault of selfishness, kind of miserliness. Here he is again making excuses. It's actually, I'm okay. This thing has come over me. That is also, the teacher can understand these things. He's trying to throw the blame on something else. This thing has come from within himself, not from outside. The feeling of helplessness is actually within himself. But he's saying that this fault has come over me. There, he's admitting he's weak now and he's blaming someone else. External circumstances. No. The heroic person will bend external circumstances up to his will. Never. It's only the weak that say, oh, because I was born poor, I had no facilities, or I had no arrangements to study or to work, I am here. No. This is the last thing that you can take recourse to. And this is the last thing he's taking recourse to. So, and in this crucial time, the word used is, they say, confused as to my duty. My duty, the word translated actually is dharma. Dharma is that which holds everything together. Dharyati, which holds everything. It's like the inner nature of that particular thing. Like the dharma of water is to flow. The dharma of air is to blow. Dharma of fire is to burn. The inner essence of a particular thing is also called dharma. It's not just, it means duty or religion. So it is actually dharma that holds you together, holds your body, holds your mind, holds your senses together. It integrates you. And here he is saying that I am now disintegrated. At this crucial time just when the war is about to start. Because in the old days, like we have these bugles blown, they now had bugles, but they had these huge conch shells, and they should blow. There the bugle blown, everything is ready, and this person is saying, I am now disintegrated. This thing has come over me. All excuses. So he takes recourse to, as usual, I am your disciple, please. But he doesn't know what it will entail. Much later, he will understand what it entails. Like it was Sri Ramakrishna, he tells Girish Ghosh, see, you take God's name 2 times a day. Oh no, I cannot commit myself. 1 time a day, I cannot commit myself. Before you go to bed, sometimes I go to bed at 2 o'clock, sometimes 3 o'clock, sometimes I'm awake the whole night, I cannot commit myself. Before food, sometimes I eat in the afternoon, sometimes I eat in the evening. And all is like, okay, you give me your power of attorney. You give me your responsibility. And Girish Ghosh was so relieved. Here, thank you. Later on he says, every spiritual discipline comes to an end. But in this case, there is no end. When I have offered everything, I couldn't commit myself. I handed over every responsibility to him, to Sri Ramakrishna. There is no end. I've got to be constantly alert. Whether it's my ego talking, my individuality trying to assert itself, or am I offering to God? He wanted to give up all his, you can say, he was a dramatist, he had a drama company. So he's saying, I'm fed up, I'm enough of this. No, you cannot. It's my will that you continue. He felt bound. That's discipleship till the very end. Arjuna is going to find out what it means to be a disciple. He thought he could just offer everything, all his, you can say, faults, this, that, everything to God, to Sri Krishna. And the Guru will look after, okay baby, don't worry, they're fine. He doesn't do that. Swami Vivekananda wanted to do that. What do you want? I want to just immerse myself in samadhi. And now and then, emerge out of the samadhi and take a little, you can say, nourishment, and then once again go back. I thought you were a large-hearted, small-minded. You're thinking only of yourself as samadhi. I will give you a state even higher than samadhi. Now samadhi is the highest state, and what can be higher than samadhi? I say, you are like the huge, you can say, Bodhi tree, banyan tree, that will give shade to all the people scorched by the world. That will be your job. No, I don't want to do it. You fellow, you have to do it. Simple as that. I am locking everything that you have, your realizations, and I have the keys. He made him work. That's discipleship. You've got to listen to your Guru too. Swami Vijnanananda, he argued once with Swami Vivekananda. And Swami Vivekananda got so annoyed. Later on, in explaining, he's saying, you see, Shri Ramakrishna is holding me by the hands, always. Don't think that what you understand of Ramakrishna is everything. So, when you actually surrender to the Guru holds you by the hand and leads you up the path to the highest good. Arjuna wasn't ready for that complete surrender. He was trying to wriggle out of his circumstances somehow. And as we know, what happens? The next sloka, he again talks about his state of mind. He's saying, it's supposed to be, when you talk, see, I've got a headache and I've got fever. And people around you become compassionate, solicitous. Okay, you take a little rest, and take a little food, and take a little medicine, take a little this. Generally, so here in the next verse, he is trying to tell the Lord, you see, I'm not well. He's trying a different technique now. I'm not, fully fit to fight. Even in the war, there are guys soldiers, who say, I'm not feeling well, and the doctor says, okay, he's not fit to fight to the front line. Give him some other duty. And this guy escapes somehow the duty of fighting. So he's trying something like this here. One last time. He says, Nahi prapashyami mamapanudhyat yachokam avapya bhumam vasapat samriddham rajam suranam apichadipatyam. He says, I do not find any remedy to the grief that parches my senses and of course my mind also. Though I were to gain unrivaled and prosperous monarchy on earth or even sovereignty over the celestials. Now he's making a case for himself that even if we win the war, we will be unrivaled. There will be no enemies. And forget this, even if I become the king of the gods, I find it insipid. Why? Because here he says, these circumstances and this idea of killing and being killed or whatever is blasting my senses. Blasting the senses and the mind. Now, the first line is, he says, when too many things come into your mind, too much data, the mind, what it does is tries to cut down on the data. It ignores many things in order for you to just survive. The brain is designed, the sensations that come in the mind might otherwise overwhelm the mind. Things are coming in. The brain just takes a tiny bandwidth of information, of data. What exactly I want in order that I may survive. So, here Arjuna, there's a huge amount of information coming in. His mind itself is in a kind of turmoil. So this has kind of confused him. The amount of data has overwhelmed him. And that's the reason why he's saying, it's as if my senses and my mind is as if scorched with this information here. And we know how things are. A little, you can say, carelessness, and then you bump yourself into something else. When you're driving, you're thinking of something else, and there. You've got to be a little careful. And then how do you have to be careful? Just concentrate on your driving. So you are safe. If you say who's riding beside me, they're going to bump into you. So he was open to all this information that has come in, and it has overwhelmed him. And this person says that I do not find any remedy to the grief that parches my senses. Yeah, I do. How do I? She should have concentrated only on the war and on his main, you can say, opponents. He didn't. Or he could have concentrated on his guru. That would have solved the problem. And he himself has surrendered to the Lord. And again he makes a kind of a boast. I say, even if we are unrivaled on earth, we win, we are prosperous, there's no one to obstruct us, or even if we gain a kind of an unrivaled, you can say, conquest even amongst the gods. Now he is putting himself, in a kind of on a pedestal also. You see? That is. And you see, Sri Krishna is, later on he smiles. When a child, he is giving lame excuses to the mother knows. And saying, oh yeah. It's like that. So all these lame excuses are being given out as a kind of a last resort. This is, we shouldn't blame him. In our circumstances, we also at times are caught in a kind of a paradox. What should we do? Should we run away? And then we run away sometimes and we think, I could have taken him down. That's nothing. I'm better than the person. Next time I'll take him down. What's that? So all these arguments are kind of rationalization. Just to kind of make your ego feel good. Oh yes. It's just a kind of a comfort. Telling lies to oneself. In spiritual life, this has to go. Because in front of the Guru, you have to show what you are. Clear. You've got to be transparent. This simple as that. This is what I am. I've come here to learn. Now teach me. At that time you don't say, even I could have taken them down. We could have won the war and we could have taken this whole kingdom, and I would have even the sovereignty over the celestials also. Oh, really? So this is Arjuna. He is now kind of, like they say, Janus-faced, two-faced. The whole Greek story is double-faced. Here he's showing, part of his dialogue says, I am surrendering, I'm weak, I'm feeling sick. And at the same time, I could have taken them down, I could have done this, I could have done that. And he's trying to bolster his kind of ego. It's just a kind of a false sense of, you can say, duality, a duplicity. He is not being true to himself, not to his clan, not to his brothers, not to his soldiers who are under him. And this is what we must understand, that in that palace there, Dhritarashtra, the old blind king, he's watching everything in the sense of through the eyes of Sanjaya. Sanjaya is an able minister, and he is going to relate everything that is happening on the battlefield. A kind of a huge divine vision that he had, that can see each and every aspect of it. So the old king now is mighty pleased. If Arjuna can be eliminated, the morale of the army will go down. Arjuna is going out there, and he is getting more and more happy. Oh, my son Duryodhana will then eventually retain his kingdom, and they will kind of a massacre. And in that kind of celebratory, you can just state, he's hearing Arjuna's weak-limbed, weak-minded and weak arguments. Because it's not only Sri Krishna who's listening to it. You must understand. Sanjay, his minister, is telling Dhritarashtra, the king, to their party. Then all the other commanders are now watching what's happening. We are supposed to commence fighting at dawn and cease fighting at dusk, which was a very strange thing. At dusk, when you finish here, those who are injured will be taken care of and all this thing. And then you wash yourself and clean yourself, and then you say your evening prayers. They go to the handicap and they say the evening prayers, because that was the custom. You cannot avoid these things. Yeah. And then at night they used to even go to the enemy camp. How is everything? So this was the old, you can say, war rules, that you are supposed to fight the enemy on the battlefield. Outside the battlefield, no. You treat them as warriors, as equals. So they used to go and, oh, he's injured. Oh, okay, fine. Another fear that his mother Kunti, she is also aware of what's going to happen. Kunti was aware that Arjuna might die, might be killed by one of her illegitimate sons. You see, what happened was, when she wasn't yet married, she gave birth to a son. And it was by the grace of the God, sun God. And since she wasn't married, what she did was, she takes that babe, puts it in a basket of reeds, and lets it float down the river. And it floats down, and then there was another couple downstream. For many years they were childless, and then they seen this basket of reeds coming. Hey, look at this bundle of joy, and God has finally heard our prayers, and here we are. So they take him. He is Karna. He was one of the greatest warriors present, and he was on their side, not on the side of the brothers. At the last moment, you can say, Kunti, she goes to him, to Karna, and she says, I am your mother. And it was an extremely emotional, you can say, scene, where he accuses her of abandoning, and she is asking for forgiveness. And that part of the Mahabharata will bring tears to your eyes. How the long lost son suddenly is now, he knows, you are my mother. Oh my God. And he knew who she was. He was a princess. So he promises her, at the end of the war, 5 sons of yours will survive. You have 5 sons all through. The whole world knows you have 5 sons. 5 will remain. The 6th, the new edition, either I'll be killed or Arjuna will be killed. Yes, and he was hell-bent on killing Arjuna. So here we have somehow, just before one passes away, before one dies, one has these kind of signs and intuitions that my time is up. Arjuna was faced with this kind of, when he talks about, I'm seeing all ill omens, he is seeing his imminent death at the hands of Karna, his elder brother, his real elder brother. And he was elder to all of them. And he was the greatest warrior. And of course, Arjuna kills Karna. But when he was unarmed, that was the greatest, you can say, fault of Arjuna, which he could not get over it. When Karna's chariot was stuck in the mud, the clay, he got down and tried to lift the chariot wheel to free the chariot. And that time he is unarmed. You cannot hit that soldier. And Arjuna did shoot him. So, and then later on, of course, after the war, then we know there was such huge, you can say, mourning. I could do this. I do not know. Yeah, so at the end, five of them remained. And before you can leave, I'll give you an example of how Arjuna could have killed him, because this is very interesting. You see, he was born by the grace of the sun god, and the sun god had given him an armor, indestructible. Nothing could pierce it. No weapons could, even cut its way through that armor and kill him. And it was skin tight. Indra was the king of the gods, and it was through his grace that Arjuna was born. He comes just before the war in the guise of an old Brahmin. And the Brahmins beg, and the king gives. He's saying, I want something from you. What do you want? I want your armor. So Karna immediately knew that this is not just an old Brahmin, this is a disguise of a god has come disguised. He's saying, I know who you are. You are Indra. He's saying, yes. Since you have asked for this and I have said yes, I'll give it to you. So it's like he rips that armor out and he's bloodied. He offers that armor to Indra, the king. And Indra leaves flabbergasted. He could do it. No one who ever came to Karna went away empty-handed. He was generous. And he kept to his word. So such was Karna. He was now defenseless. So here, his main, you can say, defense, his armor, was taken away. Yet he had the other prowesses. But then, again, when he was unarmed, he was killed. So, Arjuna was kind of intuitive, you can say, knowledge. I'm going to get killed by Karna. All these things have come and have made Arjuna what it is. Next class we will take up what Sanjaya now relates, what exactly happened. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.